Lori, Chelsey, welcome.
Hi, John.
Happy to be here.
Hi, Chelsey.
And welcome our guest today, Jean Unger, who has personally adopted multiple research beagles and is gracious enough to join us and share her experience and everything that she's learned. So welcome, Jean.
Hi, Jean.
Hi, Jean.
Hi.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So take us back to the very beginning on how you met and adopted your very first research beagle.
So we had a not a lab dog, a Labrador retriever at the time named Butters. And I think she was part beagle. Her records said that, but there was something about her. I thought if we got her a friend, I think an old beagle would be a great companion for her. And I don't really know where that came from, but someone in our neighborhood was fostering an older beagle and posted it on our neighborhood chat board. So I had her bring the dog over to meet him. And 5 minutes later, he became our first laboratory rescue dog. His name was Henry. And I knew nothing about this phenomenon at all at the time. So he was really our introduction into that. The person who was fostering him through Kindness Ranch. So she told us all about Kindness Ranch and the history of laboratory research beagles and how they came to foster him. And that started my entire journey in this world. I really knew nothing about it. So Henry was our first. That's my origin story with laboratory beagles.
So it took
that's
you
how
all
you
of
heard
5
about
minutes.
Kindness Ranch?
That's how I heard about Kindness Ranch. Yep. And the rest is history. Here we are. That was 2018. And for the listeners, I spend a great deal of time up at Kindness Ranch, working with the dogs and just devoting my time to helping there.
Jean, will you introduce the doggie with you right now?
Yes. So John mentioned that I've adopted several research beagles. This dog is Chance, formerly named Ajax, and I am at my brother's house in Massachusetts. And he needed a dog. So I adopted then Ajax from Kindness Ranch and drove him out here last June. It's about a year ago today. Drove him out here, and he's been here with my brother as my brother's dog ever since. And you guys can see how remarkably calm he is. Like this is absolutely amazing. I spent 3 days on the road with this guy, and he was anything but calm. We stayed in hotels together, and I tried to walk him, and it was all new, and now here we are a year later, and it's just a testament to when these guys get in a good, loving home, what can happen to them, how they can decompress.
Environment definitely plays a big role in it.
Yeah.
I think this is an interesting conversation with Jean because several people that we will be talking to are 6 months, 12 months, several years into having their dog. And Jean has a unique perspective because she has had research dogs and she's had research dogs past, but she also has a brand new research dog. So she's at the beginning stage of this journey with her dog. And I think that is going to be a unique perspective on the whole journey. And you've seen things from the very beginning at the ranch, and you've had several dogs, and now you're just restarting this whole journey again.
Yeah, that's right. So we had Henry for 4 years before he died. And then I just adopted Cinnamon 6 weeks ago from Kindness Ranch. So she's brand new in our home. And you're right, Chelsey. I've seen them, at every stage. Having spent time at Kindness Ranch, I actually did a transport once. So literally coming from the lab to the ranch, spending time at the ranch, bringing them home, spending years with them. I have sort of witnessed the entire spectrum of what it's like. Cinnamon's doing great. She's a little bit more fearful than she was when we first got her home. So when I met her at Kindness Ranch, she was just out of surgery. She had 17 teeth removed and she had just been spayed. So she was in pain and she was scared and she was really skittish and mostly just curled up in the corner by herself all day long. And that day was the first day I met her. Then I went home for a little while and I came back to visit the ranch and had Cinnamon stay with me in my yurt overnight just to have her with me. And that night she was a different dog. She was exploring and cuddly. And so by morning I decided she was coming home with me.
So did you go into this with Cinnamon knowing you wanted to get another dog? And if you were open to that, was there a specific type that you were looking for? Or is Cinnamon one of those dogs who you just kind of became connected to and it just happened to work out where you felt this calling towards her and she was your dog? So I guess, were you looking for something specific or was it just this moment of connection between the two of you?
I can answer that because Jean falls in love with every dog that comes through the sanctuary.
Of course.
And it took a special dog for her to actually say, this one's mine. So go ahead, Jean.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's a little bit of both. We had lots. So Butters, our Labrador that I was talking about before, we lost her at 16 in December. So I wasn't in the, you always say I'm going to give myself time. And that was December. And by, February, I was adopting Cinnamon. So I wasn't quite in the market for one necessarily. But I think I'm very good at sort of cluing into matching up people with their dogs. And that includes me. Knowing the demeanor and what kind of dog I want to have in my life that will fit well into my life. And it's actually the same with Chance. Charlie, my brother, wanted a beagle and, he set me on that mission to find him one. And he's wonderful. He's great with dogs, but he's not the most patient person on the planet. So knowing that, I was like, well, he needs a more secure dog that doesn't need quite as much work, quite as much attention. And Ajax came up to me when I was in the yurt and was just so confident. I just knew that it would be a good match, and it turned out to be. So it's a little bit instinct. It's a little bit knowing what is good for me, what I want. But then with Cinnamon, it was definitely what John was referring to. Like there was a connection. You just feel it.
Yeah, I agree. I think they choose us, Jean. I think they choose us in a magical world. We think we're in control, but they choose us. But I wanted to speak to John's statement about how we are all still learning, which is so true. And we will never know everything because we know that every dog is an individual and we're trying to match them up with then other individual humans and people and families. And so there's a learning curve for every single dog going everywhere. So on that note, Jean, specific to Kindness Ranch, could you talk about the journey of about being at Kindness Ranch? Obviously, you've seen more dogs than most fosters and adopters are going to ever see in coming out of research. What are your thoughts on their individuality and what you see and kind of the process that they go through while you're working with them at the ranch?
Yeah, they are definitely individuals and they all have their own personalities. But on the flip side of that, there are things they all have in common when they first get to the ranch. What I will say is during the process of bringing them to the ranch and then them spending, a few weeks, whatever it is, acclimating, it's very hard to really judge what their behavior is going to be because it's different in that environment than it's going to be once they get the dog home. So, I just think it's really important to pay a lot of attention to each of the dogs. And the staff always does at Kindness Ranch. And I do when I'm there, just sort of getting to know the dog on an individual basis and understanding what their instincts are, what their demeanor is, because it's nature versus nurture. And they do have a natural instinct, a natural personality that they come with. Even if they're from the same litter, from the same lab, they are all unique and different.
I love that. Was there one that you fell in love with that you didn't take home? And I know John says you love them all. I know John says you love them all, and we do, of course. I mean, that's a given. You stare at them and you're in love with them. But is there one that you sit back and go, I should have done it?
I think that's such an interesting question. And I can piggyback a little off of this because I feel similarly when I go to Kindness Ranch. And so I want, Jean, I want you to explain, because I know John and Katie, and I'm sure Lori also feel this way. So like, tell us, help us describe what it's like to really connect with a dog. And in your experience, you're working with those dogs while you're there, and then have a connection to that dog and then watch them go to another home, because it is this conflicting emotions that we feel. Yep. So describe that.
Okay, I can speak to one dog about that. Cilantro. So last summer.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that, John?
I do.
Cilantro had been adopted and for some reason was returned to Kindness Ranch. And I was headed up there to help with a transfer. And during that time, I had brought up another beagle, Noodle, who was rescued in Colorado and needed to be somewhere for a couple of days while I was sort of fostering it. And so I brought Noodle up to Kindness Ranch. I asked John if Noodle could just stay there for the few days that I was going to be gone doing the transfer. Cilantro was slated to go with us. And I guess he took to me. I mean, he came up to me in the yurt and started sitting on my lap and hugging me. And the staff member who was there was kind of shocked. She said, he doesn't do that with anyone. And I was like, well, I might need to take Cilantro home then, you know? Cilantro was slated to go to a rescue in the morning, or a foster home in the morning. So yeah, ultimately it was fine. But that feeling that you described, Chelsey, is like, it's a mix of emotions. Because on one hand, I thought, oh, I'm the only person. Now Cilantro has chosen me. I'm the only person that can take Cilantro home. And I need to do this for him. And no, Cilantro went to a great home and did fine and is thriving. And it's mixed emotions, because in the end, I was so relieved and happy to see him move on to a good home. But it's painful. Each time
it is. It
really is.
It is. You know what? I try not to get attached in any way. And of course, I'm doing transport, working with the dogs, and then working with the fosters. However, I had one of those moments because the dog had to stay. I was short a foster, and the male dog had to stay in my home for 1 month. And my girls don't like any dogs. They are not happy with any dogs, and they loved this boy. And I kept saying, I'm never getting another boy beagle because of the beagle behind me, Trouble, who I loved. And I just don't want that. I just don't want another boy. I want Trouble to remain in the space in my heart and head forever. So I swore I'm only going to have girls. But I was slowly falling in love with this dog. And I'm like, this is a slippery slope. This is not good. The girls accept him. So as it turned out, as a side note, one of my board members ended up adopting Atlee. And so now I'm just an auntie and I get to see him all the time, and it works out perfectly. So it worked.
You know, it does get easier. I will say that as you see it happen, and because you're so happy for the dog in the end. I mean, that's all we
Totally.
all want.
Yeah. Agreed.
So that's because you're part of the community now. And for the people that may not know your direct connection with Kindness Ranch, Jean is such a seasoned volunteer at Kindness Ranch that she's actually helped train new staff when they arrive.
That's amazing.
So her dedication at the sanctuary is unsurpassed. She was our Volunteer of the Year for 2025, and we're incredibly grateful to have her.
Thank you.
I would agree that Jean, the first time that I met Jean, she really likes to understand the dogs and do everything that she can to help those dogs. And I know sometimes it may be like we're not doing enough for them. And I have conversations, and I've had a conversation with Jean before of, you know what, anything that we can do for these dogs is good. And
for sure.
You're in it.
It's just going to make their life better.
You're in it. And it's funny because your reputation preceded you. John had spoken so highly of you. And when I walked in, you just lived up to it all, because you walked up, you hugged me, and I was like, this is the magical Jean that I've heard so much about.
Thank you so much.
And it's true. It's true. And then of course, well, it's true. And I so appreciate you because you're so immersed in it. You're now coming to the Beagle Alliance town halls, and you're literally immersed in helping and saving and placing these dogs. And we are all lucky to have you. I know John feels that way, but we are all lucky to have you. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. And I mean, I've learned so much from all three of you, and so honored to be working with you. Really.
Well, that kind of takes me to my next question for you is, as I said, you're part of the community now. And with Cinnamon, your new family member, you mentioned that Cinnamon was a little bit more fearful at times after going home. And being part of this community, how do you navigate working through those little setbacks when you get Cinnamon home? Do you reach out to Chelsey for help? Do you take advantage of our online Facebook groups? Do you feel like you're supported enough and have enough information to get through all of that?
Oh, absolutely. No, I immediately reached out to Chelsey. Cinnamon backtracked a little bit. You know, when she first got into the house the first week, she was very outgoing and very brave. And so I had a moment of panic, or several moments of panic, when she started to get fearful again. And I immediately reached out to Chelsey, who is brilliant. And she responded immediately. We talked. She talked me through it. And one of the most valuable parts of our conversation, which we had talked about in the past, was her knowing exactly what I was going through and telling me, you know, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up. You didn't ruin your dog in the first week. You know, like she really understands this process, and it's almost like therapy for the dog, you know, the person who adopts the dog, just being told that everything is okay and it's going to be okay. And this is normal, because this isn't something that will necessarily happen with a puppy or a well-adjusted dog that you bring into your home. You celebrate the moments of success, but there are also moments where they backtrack, and, you know, expected or not expected, it can be really scary and upsetting. So Chelsey is a phenomenal source of information and just a phenomenal person, as all three of you are. Like I said, well, it's my turn to embarrass all of you now. I do feel really supported. And John, you mentioned the Facebook page. Yeah. The adopters and the adopters group, we're constantly on there sharing stories, and people are always asking for advice. And of course, I send them directly to Chelsey. But everyone has stories to share and information to share. And it's also, it's just like, for lack of a better word, it's a safe place for all of us. We don't judge each other. We don't criticize. We're all in it together. And at the end of the day, it's all about our dogs and what's best for them. And I love that about this community. The Kindness Ranch community, Lori, the Beagle Alliance, Chelsey, and what she does. Like this is just the most outstanding community of people I have ever been involved with.
Jean, is there a point with Cinnamon or even with Henry, and you do have a lot of experience with these dogs, and you can prepare yourself enough, but is there a point that you can remember thinking that you don't know if you're the right person or it's the right home for the dog that you had?
To the extent that the environment and how many other dogs and pets we have in the house, yes. I don't think I had any concern about my relationship or my husband's relationship with the dog and whether we were right for them. But, is it okay that there's another dog in the house? Or right now there is no other dog in the house. Is that okay? Our yard is what I considered a perfect yard for a dog, but parts of it Cinnamon seems to find scary. I don't know if it's the trees or barking on the other side of the fence. So at those times, I wonder if she would be better off in a different kind of yard. So those kind of questions. But in terms of personality matches to the dog, no, there haven't been any concerns there. I certainly, Chelsey, we've talked, am I doing the right thing in this scenario? So I guess I have doubted myself in certain scenarios, but then I have you to ask, and you usually throw me down.
I think a lot of fosters and adopters, and I know Lori will agree with me on this because we've had several conversations with each other and also with other fosters and adopters that, especially at the beginning, they overthink and they worry. Am I, even things like your yard, like they're afraid of this area or that area, or should I not walk around this room? Or what if they don't want to do this? And that's a hard point to be at. And something I know Lori and I both say all the time is just relax. You're showing up for your dog and you're keeping your dog safe. That's all they need right now. There are obviously little things that we can do to make it better for them, but I think it's a definite part of this process is wondering if we're doing enough, because we want to give this dog everything because we know this is their second chance. And I think sometimes we question ourselves if we're doing the right thing or we're the right person or should I do this, that, or the
Absolutely.
other? And it gets hard.
Yeah. Well,
on the flip side of that,
yourself. Sorry, we're all talking. It's all a passionate thing for us.
It's very passionate. I was going to just say on the flip side of that, Chelsey, in 2022, when the troubled in Vigo breeding facility had to release nearly 4,000 dogs, there were a lot of very well-intentioned people that didn't think about it enough and brought in these dogs that were suffering from being very under-socialized, traumatized, and they got themselves in so far over their head that they didn't know what to do. And the public awareness wasn't as much as it is today. There wasn't people as specialized as you that were on a public platform. And I know, Jean, you've had experience with some of those dogs. Chelsey, you have. Lori, obviously, you and I have. There's, going back to what Chelsey said earlier in the conversation, it depends. It depends on the people. It depends on the dog. And when you flood local municipal shelters with these former research animals and they don't have the training or the public awareness, those poor dogs just they really, really suffer for even longer, I think.
Yeah, you're
I agree,
absolutely
John.
right.
That's such a great point. It's true. And of course, even as Jean, you saying that you feel supported, and that's pretty much our goal, is that not only are we helping the dogs transition, but we're supporting the people who are bringing the dogs into their homes. For us as a foster-based organization, we don't have a facility, and therefore the people who foster and then usually adopt the dogs are taking a dog sight unseen. They have no idea what dog they're getting. And they constantly question themselves is am I doing the right thing for the dog? And the important thing for us is to just reinforce that, again, as a foster-based organization, we wouldn't be able to get dogs out and help Kindness Ranch if they didn't say yes to taking the dog in. So they've already done such an amazing thing by taking the dog, and then they have to just be forgiving and let themselves, just as Chelsey says, relax and not be so hard on themselves. And I see so many fosters get anxious, and then that anxiousness transfers to the dog. So the way in which I kind of get them to snap out of it a little bit is to say, you know what? The more relaxed you are, the more relaxed the dog's going to be, and you guys are going to enjoy your time together. And then you can see whether it's a match and what that looks like. But it really is making sure that fosters and adopters don't feel alone. And I think we could all agree that, you know, the support is not just, it's all about the dog and making sure the dog's safe, but the people are you, Jean, and the fosters and adopters, you guys are the heroes out there, working every day with these dogs and taking them in and listening to whatever experience we have. And we just want to be there for you because you're doing the hard work. You're doing the work.
100%.
I think it's such a good perspective to have both of those angles, right? Like it is something very, very serious, but also don't take it too seriously.
Exactly.
That's a hard line to you know, I don't know what that
Lori,
phrase is.
well, you're
it's a hard
holding
line
two
to
things.
be. Yeah, you're
holding
exactly.
two things. Yeah.
It's very hard. And I guess when I even had that previous statement, I'm picturing fosters and adopters with the two of your organizations. But John, you're absolutely right. A random person should not go get this dog if they're not prepared and they don't know what could happen, what to do, and that there are people there to help them because they are very different dogs. And yeah, there are some things that you should be doing and you should know with them. But also at the same time, if you have been vetted, if you are prepared for it, then there is a level of, okay, we know who you are. We know your home is safe. We know you are prepared mentally and emotionally for this. Now, just keep the dog safe and relax, and you guys will get into a groove together. And if something happens, you have the rest of us to reach out to.
Exactly. We will walk you through it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jean, I've got another question for you.
Yep.
As we start to wrap up for today, what is a little bit of life lesson when it comes to these dogs?
Do you want to, John, do you want to ask that again? Do you want to mute Lori and then ask that question again?
You guys,
That's a good
do
question.
you want Poppy on the podcast, or what's the deal here? Hey,
I'm going to
Pops.
mute you for
Mute
a
me.
second,
Yep.
Lori. So, Jean, as we wrap up for the day, what is a good life lesson in the world of former research beagles that you would like to share with anybody listening?
Multiple, but I'll try and keep my answer somewhat succinct. Lessons that I have learned are, I learn more from the dog than they learn from me. I'm quite sure of that. I mean, the love, affection, the trust they have in human beings is remarkable given their circumstances. Their bravery, resilience. So all of that are lessons that I learn every day from Cinnamon and from every research beagle that I've been around. But as far as a person taking one of these dogs in as a foster or an adopter, patience is the most important characteristic to have with them. Let them do what they need to do. Don't force them into things. You know, we were talking about beating yourself up. And I kind of wanted to correct myself that I'm pretty sure I caused Cinnamon's anxiety.
I don't think you did.
You know, I can be anxious sometimes. So it's my fault she got anxious, but I'm kidding.
It's not your fault.
Yeah. But yeah, just sort of being in their world, trying to, as much as you can, get your mind into their minds, and imagine, walking into a room for the first time or hearing a door close for the first time. As hard as that is, I think that's the best way to work with your dog and understand what they're going through as you go on this journey with them.
You said that you feel like you have been changed more than you have been changed, or you said that you have been changed more than you have changed their lives.
Yeah, I don't think I said it as articulately as that, but that's what I meant.
I think you said it better than I did. Explain that to me. Explain what you mean by that, and what specific things do you think are different about you now after your several research dogs, and maybe even individually after each dog? What has that dog changed about you?
Well, meeting Henry, coming into the world of research beagles, being a part of this community, it's been about 4 or 5 years now, and I think I have become just a more intentional person, a more centered person. I know where my passion is now. I know where I want to be and who I want to be working with. The dogs, this gave me purpose in my life. I mean, it really did. I can't even help myself. John hears from me every week. Is there a place available for me to stay? I can't stay away from Kindness Ranch. I can't stay away from the dogs. It's just been, it's brought something out in me that I didn't know existed. That sounds so melodramatic, but it really has. Working with these dogs is it's life changing. To see them.
I don't think it sounds that.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I don't think, sorry, Jean, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
I don't think it sounds melodramatic. I hear that all the time, and I think we all do. And it's very inspiring to hear how important the dogs in our lives are. I mean, I wouldn't even be doing this work if I hadn't have ended up with a beagle and looked up beagles and had no idea, 15 years ago they were being tested on. So I love that you're sharing that. I think that's a great question, Chelsey. And I just think that I think everyone with a dog, let alone a former research dog, has that same feeling that their dog has made them a better person in a way.
Yeah.
And
100%.
I thank you for sharing that. I think that's really special.
So, Jean, now you get to ask the question.
Yes.
Okay.
It's your free advice time. You get to pick our brain. What's one question that you would have for each of us to help your journey a little bit more?
Well, Lori kind of just answered the question that I would have for each of you, which is that how has this, what's your origin story in introduction into this world, and how did it change your lives?
Am I answering first?
Sure.
Go ahead.
You go first.
Go ahead, Lori.
Go ahead.
Only because you said my name, Jean. But well, this dog beside me, Trouble, sort of wandered into my world, and I had just lost 2 of my dogs, and I had one lonely dog at home, and I knew nothing about beagles. In fact, no, I thought I knew something about beagles. I actually thought the beagles were pocket dogs that Hollywood ladies walked around with in their purse. Okay. So that's how I thought of beagles. I didn't realize that they were fun-loving scent hounds, just tough little witty, crafty dogs. And I ended up getting the wittiest and craftiest dog. So I didn't know why this dog was escaping. I had no frame of reference. So again, I Googled beagles, and the first thing that came up was former research beagles walking on grass for the first time. And like so many people probably out there, I was mortified and wondering how this could be going on. And so I started volunteering with an organization where I eventually started working at. And then through that, realized that nobody in Canada knew this was going on. And of course, that's how the Beagle Alliance started, is because in Canada, there are no laws and there's no legislation and there's nobody protecting animals in research in Canada. And so that is it in a very, very 30-second, maybe little snippet.
Well, good for you for being the person to start saving them.
Well, thanks to John and Kindness Ranch. So thank you.
I have been working in dog behavior for over a decade now, and I got connected to somebody who had 2 dogs from in Vigo, and they were having a lot of trouble after hiring several trainers who suggested heavily medicating and euthanizing, and the dogs would never ever get along, and so you need to pick your favorite, and they didn't accept that, luckily. So I got connected with them and talked to a colleague of mine that I knew who knew a lot more about former research beagles. And I started learning what I could about them. And I helped out these clients to the point where hopefully they're on the show one day talking about their dogs. And I think anyone who is around these dogs has the same feeling as I did, which is this is something amazing. And you fall in love with these dogs no matter if you meet them. If you meet John and Uno on Capitol Hill one day, you fall in love with them. Or if you get a dog or work with these research dogs, you fall in love with them. And I felt that click moment where I was like, similar to how you felt, Jean, of this is bringing something out different in me. And this is something that I feel like I need to do for the rest of my life. And I met John and Lori that way. And luckily I got to go out to Kindness Ranch and work with those dogs in person for the first time. And now I can go out as much as I can, convince my husband to let me go, and we can go out there. And I just started working with dogs from Kindness Ranch and dogs from Beagle Alliance and any other people out there who needed help with their research beagles. Because I think my background with behavior and then all of my hands-on experience over the past several years working with these dogs, my mission now is to help not only the dogs, but the people like yourself who have these dogs and who do overthink things and have these questions. And that's, it's hard to figure out what to do when you don't know what to do. And no one should know what to do, because even myself working with these dogs for a while, I had to relearn some things because their brains are a little bit different than dogs who have not lived the same life that they have. So I wouldn't expect the average person or the average dog trainer to understand how to help. And that struck me as something that I have a unique ability to do, is help these dogs and help these people. And I love it. And it's what I was meant to do in this world.
It shows.
Well, I guess it's my turn.
Your turn.
This, as of the recording of this episode, it marks my 26th year working in animal rescue. And along about 7.5, almost 8 years ago, I was working as a sanctuary manager at a primate sanctuary in Florida, where I was introduced to former research primates for the very first time. And I knew that they tested on animals, but I was really caught off guard by the fact that they were able to release them. And I saw how troubled and traumatized the squirrel monkeys were that just came in from a federal facility. And I knew that it was the direction that I needed to go into. And I found Kindness Ranch and moved into the director role. But I don't consider that my origin story. My origin story, I feel, is ever evolving, because whenever I meet people like Lori and like Chelsey and you as well, Jean, it changes who Kindness Ranch is and who we become, because it is a community and it's ever evolving. And if you don't evolve, you get left behind. So when you meet amazing people in this industry, you maintain those relationships. You include them in your plans and allow them a seat at the table to help navigate the troubled times that this industry throws at you every day. So I'm always incredibly grateful for all of the wonderful people that we get to work with, for all of the people that we get to meet and shape the journey that we're all on.
And we are thankful for you also.
Yeah, well said, John. That's amazing. John's made more of a difference for research animals in Canada than people realize, just by trusting us. And there's no words for my gratitude for you guys. So thank you for saying that. It is so back at you.
I'm just an enabler is all I am.
Yeah,
I think you both have. I think you both have made so much difference for dogs in research, more than anyone knows, and that's the hard part about some of this. Sometimes is no one really knows all of the things that John and Lori do for these dogs, and the dogs know, and it pays off, because you guys are helping a lot of dogs, and it's fantastic.
Oh, the dogs
the job's been made easier with you.
The dogs know when John walks into the yurt, the dogs know him as the person that, for sure.
I love that. Well, they are smarter than us sometimes, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh, they certainly think they are.
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh, every beagle thinks they're smarter than us, you guys. You know that. That's the beagle nature.
Well, I want to close just by reminding everybody that you don't need a former research animal to get anything from our discussions here. The life lessons and training behavior tips and tricks that we all share are pretty much universal. I'd like to give Lori and Chelsey a chance to throw out their social contacts for quick follows and any closing words that they want to share.
I'll go. My social media, let me make sure I get it right. You can find the work that I do with former research beagles on Instagram. It's keeper.andkin, spelled out. Keeper is the people sitting here right now. Keepers are people like John's and Lori's and Jean's, and adopters and fosters and myself. We're all keepers of these dogs, and the kin are the dogs. And anyone listening is also a keeper, anything that you have to do with that. And so that is the keeper and kin on Instagram.
Well, the Beagle Alliance on all social media, pretty easy to find. Closing thoughts, I think, I agree, John. I think absolutely, in order to be interested and listen to the podcast, you certainly don't have to have a former research beagle. I think that, yes, that will be the focus. But of course, these discussions really speak to how important dogs are in our lives, in our community, and how we just value their companionship. And I think there's a lot of great stories to be had about how our dogs really do change the course of our lives in some cases. So thank you all. Thank you, Jean.
Thank you all.
Well, you can also follow Kindness Ranch at kindnessranch.org or Kindness Ranch on all of our socials. Jean, it has been an absolute honor to share the last hour or so with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Before I stop recording, do you want to throw anything out, let people know what you're up to or when you're going to be back to the sanctuary next?
When you posed that I should ask the next question, I was going to say, when can I come back, John?
You have a yurt with your name on it.
Thank you.
When can I come back, John?
You have a yurt with your name on it. Same with you, Chelsey. And Chelsey, it didn't go unnoticed that you said that you can come back as often as needed and not as often as you want.
Mm-hmm. John, you and I share that same thought process. You and I are very much under the impression that we would do this for $0 because we just want to all the time. And I know my husband he's the business end of everything I do. So he balances me out a little bit, but I'd be out at Kindness Ranch all the time if we could.
I have a board of directors that reminds me of the financial side of things out here all the time.
Yes, John, exactly.
I know we're closing, but you were all talking about why people might want to listen to this podcast. And I'd like to add something. It is about the dogs and this community, but also about human nature and what we learn from the dogs and community, how we work together. So I think even if you don't have a research dog or never heard of any of this, there's so much that people can get out of this podcast.
Absolutely. Very well said.
Thanks for listening to Dogs Beyond the Lab. For more, including comments, feedback, and ways to get in touch with our hosts, go to beyondthelab.dog.
Produced and distributed by the Sound Off Media Company.